Just remember to record, and that's fine that we didn't record anything else earlier because nobody cares about any of that anyway. So I guess let me just share what we have here. I don't think a lot of the top ones are classroom related. So sharing the results, I'm going to save this for future reference. Just do a little like snip and then just put it over here. And like I said, like some of these, I do not have a lot of answers here. I offered to moderate. That is my role. And so hopefully we can have a good discussion about some of these. So it looks like the top one, we'll start with number 8, which has a lot of sub topics to it, just generally proctoring. And then placement mandates from the state. And then what does that say for the future? Transitional math, looks like we have some people that will be able to offer some guidance, some information about that. Those are the top ones. 4 and 5 are next. I'm going to italicize those. We'll kind of see how much time we have at that point. So let's start with proctoring. I don't know if you want to consider this first one, Mike, more about a discussion for next week, or because some of this are more. Actually, these are all about, the first 2 are about classroom, like in your class. What are your schools doing, or what are you doing? And the last one is about placement exams. So does anybody have, maybe let's do that whole school-wide one. Do you have any feedback about, I should be taking some notes, shouldn't I? Shoot. All right, I will start a new document with some notes. Does anybody have any feedback from your institution about what you are doing for proctoring placement tests?
At the College of Lake County, we are not proctoring placement tests. We are accepting unproctored ALEC scores.
We are at KCC as well.
Marine Valley also.
Yeah.
Green Valley is also, sorry, but we're hoping to, we're allowing students now to make appointments if they need to come in to do it. They don't have to.
In Prairie State, we've been doing it with unproctored, but we're about to start doing it proctored. I don't know how everybody else is feeling, but man, some of these students are doing really, really well on this placement test. I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but we're having a lot of suspicious activity.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it. Has anyone looked at there and done that analysis, or has someone at your institution done?
We have very low enrollment in our, we have like an arithmetic course. We canceled so many sections of that. It was unbelievable. Like, and anybody who took the placement test this year did not place into the lowest level course.
That's us too. That's why I'm saying that they're doing a lot better. Normally they would place into our pre-algebra class, and they're placing into like intermediate and
yeah,
and
us too. Yeah, we had a lot of our low. I would say we're down across the board, but our smallest drop was in intermediate algebra, which goes to, I guess, which kind of says that the people that were helping them take the test only knew intermediate algebra also.
Our biggest numbers were the developmental classes.
At Rock Valley, they gave everybody waivers so they could pretty much take whatever they wanted to for the next semester or two until we got back to normal. So people are just jumping in whatever they want. And I don't know if they're doing too well or not. Some of them are doing okay, because they're, it's all online. They get all the answers and stuff. So, but they had some waivers. If I can just jump in anything.
For fall
Paul,
only.
are you saying at Rock Valley that they don't have to place? They can just take whatever they want? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what I'm saying. There's some kind of a waiver that people can come in instead of taking a placement test. They can just in any class they want and see how it goes. I don't know what they're doing about that.
Oh, it's just like, I'll take calculus for $100.
Roger would know more about that. I don't know much about all that stuff. I just put my head down and teach my 9 classes.
I mean, it's not a novel idea, right? It's been done where it's like placement tests are optional and recommendations and you can take whatever you want. Whether or not it's a good idea, I'm just saying it's not a new thing.
And that's what I would be curious is if students who are self-placing, however it is, into higher classes, like to know how they're doing. But I guess that goes back to parts A and B maybe in this question in terms of how do we know if they're the ones doing it?
Right. I will
Um,
say some Zoom etiquette because lots of people have ideas.
Yeah, sorry.
No. We've been doing great so far, but I know some people got cut off. So if you click on participants, you should be able. There should be an option there, like by your name, to raise your little blue hand. And so if it gets a little crazy, there's only 12 people here, so it shouldn't be too bad. But you can raise your hand, and that way we can kind of. I'll try to moderate and see who. The problem is, I think it does that alphabetical too. So it like prioritizes. So whoever has their hand raised, those will be alphabetical. Then it'll be whoever's unmuted, alphabetical. And anyway, so Don, why don't you go ahead?
So at ICC, we've been piloting like multiple measure stuff. And so right now we're really using other things like primarily high school transcripts to help with placement as opposed to placement testing.
Since no one's talking, Dawn, was that part of your original multiple measures plan, or has that changed because of COVID?
That process started last fall. There was like a pilot program where they were working with, like to kind of see how it was going to work. We have internal data from the last 4 or 5 years that looked at placement tests and high school transcripts and the whole 9 yards. And the data showed that their high school transcripts were going to be at ICC. That was the best predictor of success for our students going back like 4 or 5 years. So that's what they started using. And so now because of COVID, it's just rather than a kind of a pilot, it's just kind of that's been the mode that they've chosen for right now, just because they have the transcripts.
I don't know if you saw in the chat, Kira asked for we could like make a little record, at least of those who are here. This might be a good use of polling our members in the future too. It's so easy to just make a quick Google form and email all the members and see if they'd fill it out. But just anybody have any, or you can just maybe type in the chat, but some classroom exam proctoring. We do, because we have a desire to learn, and there's like, I can't remember what it is. I don't do any proctoring.
Yeah, KCC, we use Respondus Lockdown Monitor and Respondus, no, I said those, Respondus Monitor and Respondus Lockdown Browser. However, I do not use either of them. Cats need fed. No, sorry.
Yeah, I don't use any proctoring, so I can't really say on that.
Yeah, my problem is right now, I just worry about the message that it sends, and I don't know. Sometimes I question the effectiveness of it. So ProctorU, Respondus, Proctor Free, Honor Lock. Those are the ones I'm hearing.
The effectiveness is something I question completely too. Even one of the software programs that we saw a demo of, at one point they said, just knowing that this exists might help students behave more ethically. So whether or not, it's just sort of that idea, I don't know. I think there's a lot to question with the proctoring software.
Yeah, and I see Amy and then Mike.
Sorry, I'm trying Honor Lock, and the issue I'm facing is my math, students read the question and then they look down and write, and that flags them every single time. I want them to tilt their screen down so I can see their work surface when they're doing that, but then it pauses the exam and then they have to, get their face back in the frame. So and there's no way to turn off face detection at an instructor kind of level. So, I think that face detection is a big thing for all of them. At the very least, it's going to flag it, which makes reviewing videos impossible. And at the worst, it pauses the exam until they get back in the frame. So it hasn't been a great experience, I would say, but I felt like I needed something, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Mike, you want to add something?
Yeah, before the semester began, I was on the fence about that, and I went online, and of course, I've looked up a ton of places where students have commented where they've circumvented it. Of course, they're going to find a way to circumvent them. Plus, at least with Respondus Monitor, it only works with Macs PCs and iPads. It does not work with Chromebooks, and so I think there's equality issues there. I also think there are equity issues with these about looking into people's homes, and I have a real big issue with that as well. I think there are better. I personally think, and this is something I think I'm going to bring up talk about in next week's session. I think there are better ways of dealing with the academic integrity issues than using monitoring and lockdown browsers. That's all I wanted to say.
Sure. Yeah, and before, wait, Don, you're up next anyway, because you made a comment in the chat too. So I don't know if you want to address that, and then if you had an additional comment.
Well, okay, so I'm not doing monitoring, period. I leave my tests open for 24 hours and I make them timed. And grades would say that they're not cheating because if they were cheating, they would be doing far better than what they are. So I've got colleagues that are doing the 2-device system. So if you don't know what that is, basically they have their phone or a tablet or something set up so that, and that's logged onto Zoom so that the person, the instructor can see their computer monitor and them and like their hands and the whole 9 yards. And then their test is actually on the computer so that they can make sure that they're kind of watching, and they have to have their desk clear and the whole 9 yards. But they're giving tests at a very specific time. Everybody has to show up, and then they sit and watch their computer screen for an hour at the little tiny pictures to see who might be cheating. I've gone a different route, and I've just really changed the types of questions that I ask on an exam. So for example, like in the finance unit, I just got done testing that. Rather than having them do a lot of the solving, the first half of the questions were just, which formula would you use? Because if you can't pick out the right formula, you're not going to get the question right. And so it doesn't do them any good to type in a question into whatever and get a numerical answer, because there is no numerical answer. It's simply, do you need an annuity? Is it a payout annuity? Is it what is it? And and then I had some that were essay, like what equation would you use? And then tell me why you're using it. So then I did have a few that they had to solve as well. But that was enlightening, because there were a lot of people that couldn't get those first 8 or 9 questions right.
Yeah, very interesting. That I just struggled right now in Calc 2 is a whole unit on integration strategies. Right? It's so hard to write questions. I don't know. I didn't do a good job, so it's fine. No lives will be lost. It's fine.
Well, I like what you said though too about the results with the students, because I don't use proctoring either. I have the tests open each week, and they have to complete assignments to get to them, and I haven't seen a lot of evidence of cheating. I've seen a few where the timing, how long it takes them to do a test, is a little questionable. But I have, with the scores that I've seen, I haven't seen really a lot that have made me really concerned about cheating, which honestly surprised me a little bit. But so far so good, I guess.
Yeah, it's also early in the semester, and so as stress increases and the pressure increases, that might change things too.
Yeah.
Donna mentioned, and then I just replied in the chat, I had the same thing. Like in the spring, the primary things that happened to me were students interacting with each other, like texting each other. And I just found them because they had the same stupid answer, 3 of them. They're like, that's how you find them, So, Tara, want to go ahead?
Yeah, so one of my colleagues who I thought was going to be here, Kate, she's teaching Calc 2 this semester. And she has already had a bunch of cases of her students cheating. It was pretty obvious because we used D2L, so her tests were in D2L. The answers that they were putting in were exactly what, I forget if it was like Symbolab or Desmos was kicking out. And she was intentionally picking integrals that would, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you guys are not, you know what I'm saying. The ones that if you just use a U substitution, you get a normal answer. But if you use one of those, kind of things, you get some kind of goofy, random, doesn't make any sense answer, kind of thing, right? So she actually talked to somebody at our college about it. She wanted to report them for academic misconduct. And the guy at our college was like, nope, that's not enough proof.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference of whether your institution is going to back you up.
Right. So, yeah. So my question was, has anybody gone as far as like catching somebody, reporting it and, for, online stuff and, did your college back you up on that? Because I feel like, what proof do we have then if we can't just produce something and say, no, you got to trust me on this, that they cheated. There's no way they got this answer without using this aid.
Yeah, like a lot of that. So Donna's saying for her institution, that was collaboration. You couldn't prove it. I know at Elgin, faculty have been backed up on many instances. So we feel confident about it. I have a policy that I ran by my dean. It has like tiers of violations. There's only like 2, but it's clear and like, hey, if you violate this, you get an instant deduction on that test. You violate it again, you get a 0 on the test. You violate it again, you get an F in the course. So at least at Elgin, how about?
I did have one other case too, and I hate to speak for her, but I wanted to bring this up. It was in intermediate algebra. It was toward the beginning of this semester. She had a student go all the way to the end of the course and start certifying sections. We use Hawk, started certifying sections in like record time, you guys. Like this girl jumped ahead and certified the section on, what was it? It was like rational equations involving factoring. And she certified like 12 or 15 questions in about 48 seconds or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And again, not enough proof. Like we haven't even, she's like, she hasn't even learned this yet. I haven't even taught this yet. How does she just miraculously zip through quadratic equations and stuff like that? It's like, well, maybe she doesn't belong in this course. No, that's not it.
So like Donna's saying, there's other programs too that like there's so many things out there that you just take a picture and you show the work. And what gets me, this happened in last semester in Calc 3. I had a student who we were doing Lagrange multipliers, a specific method, a strategy we had solved, and there's different notations for it. So we had done it, and the student did a slightly different method. It was different than what we had done. It's mathematically appropriate. It's fine. And so I like asked him about it, like, why is this method is different than what we did? Like, well, I'm repeating this class, and that's the method we used before. He had me the previous semester. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Any other thoughts about the future implications of proctoring placement exams? Are you hearing word from your administrators like, this is going fine, we should do this all the time and save on proctoring? Like, I haven't heard anything like that. Oh, Mike, you got your hand raised. I don't know if I missed that earlier.
No, I just raised it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I have heard specifically from both Melvin Harrison and Marcus Brown at ICCB that no, it will not be a permanent thing that ICCB is going to push out. It is only going to just be for this COVID part, and then once this is over, and I assume that means once we go back to phase 5, vaccine, whole shot, then it will fall back on to what each institution is doing for their multiple methods That's what they tell me. Now we'll see what that means when we move along, because they'll look at the college data and say, oh, look at all these students who are taking college level courses now. Well, as we talked about 15 minutes ago, we could possibly see why that's happening. But that's what I was told, and I've been hearing that from my own administration too, is that until this is over, then we will go back to what we have been doing, because if you don't understand what I'm saying, the ICCB did come out with a statement that said you can use GPA to place, okay, and you don't have to do placement exams to place. This during the COVID time. There's concern that that's going to be a mandate from here on out. What I'm hearing is that is not true. It is for sure just for during COVID time. That again, they can, as what Dawn was saying with what they're doing at ICC is students can take college level courses based on GPA and not based on a placement exam.
Unmuting. Anybody else hearing anything from your administration about the current status? Yeah, like I don't run into people anymore. I don't have hallway conversations anymore, right? Like I don't know. Kara, do you want to add something?
Yeah, sorry. I think Kishwaukee College is still relatively small compared to a lot of your schools. And unless I'm remembering wrong, I think we are still proctoring students who are taking the AccuPlacer exam. So our testing services just booked it out. I don't know what they used, but our testing services did the proctoring themselves, maybe through Zoom. So we haven't had any of those issues, but I don't know. Once it happens in every other school, it'll happen at our school. Yeah, okay, we'll just forget about placement testing.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, because I thought I remember seeing something about that at ours too. So they're offering remote testing for math. What's the remote testing form?
Dan, from what I understand, you cannot take AccuPlacer at home.
Maybe
I don't know if I'm right on that. You have to take AccuPlacer at the school.
Maybe that's an AccuPlacer thing then.
That's an AccuPlacer thing. Alex, of course, you can make your own account and take them wherever you want to take them. So that's why at our school, English is still using AccuPlacer, math is using Alex. So for English, they have to go in and take the AccuPlacer. Math, they can take it home. That's the way we're doing it here.
Interesting. Well, this has been good. This has been valuable to at least get a sense of what's happening around the state. Anybody have anything else to talk about proctoring that you wanted to add? Either at an institutional or a instructor level? Okay. The next one on our rating was placement mandates. Yeah, how have the placement mandates changed at the state level? This maybe is the same as proctoring, right? This is kind of, this is what Mike really talked about, the state saying that you can use GPA, or was it a mandate that you should use GPA or you could? We already could, couldn't we? What's the difference? They already wanted us to use GPA only.
It was if you could not do anything else, or if something else did not work, then you could just use GPA to place. If I'm trying to remember what that actually said.
Yeah.
And in other words, it was up to the institution at this point that if you have a placement testing procedure, you could bypass that and just use GPA. ICCB would be okay with that.
Gotcha.
And then the concern was that's going to go further.
Mike.
Sorry. Nope.
Yeah, and I think I'm confused like you were, Dan, because I don't think we were necessarily mandated to start using these multiple measures and placing off what gave them the highest placement. But Moraine was never doing anything with high school GPAs. And then my vice president was like, we need to do this. You know, they want us to start this. We need to get this going. And as I understood it, it was, you have SAT scores, you have your placement, you have your high school GPA, whatever gets you into the highest course, we need to go with, kind of thing. Now, this was all discussions late fall, early spring. And, you know, I honestly have no idea what's happened,
Right.
how anybody's getting any class right now. But that was certainly the direction we were heading, was that whatever would place them, whatever gave them the best outcome, you know, the highest placement, maybe not the best outcome, but the highest placement, was what we were supposed to follow.
Sure. Well, let's move on. I know we do have some transitional math people here. And one of the next ones that people had voted on was what's the guidance for ICCB for transitional math during the pandemic? So I know, I feel like there were two people. We got Andrew.
I actually wrote that one.
Go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry, I
John.
didn't raise my hand.
It's fine. It's
That's a
fine.
bad
You
student.
just got to be preemptive and unmute first. Just go for it. It's
Okay.
all about who's most aggressive.
I wrote that one, and since then I've done a little bit of research, and I've also heard back from Samantha Lee from ISB kind of about the transitional math. I actually asked Mike as well. He's nodding. Apparently the state panel is meeting at the end of the month. He can talk about that. But basically the guidance that I have discovered is kind of business as usual. The MOU still trumps local policies. So we had high schools that were saying that during COVID, they're not giving finals, or the finals are only worth a tiny bit, where the MOU has them taking a final worth a certain amount. So the guidance that I've discovered since I wrote that question was the MOU is still trumping the local policies, and they just need to be following the MOU. I will add to that, though, that our local panel met, and we're providing a little bit more specific guidance. So we're allowing that, like some of our high schools were very ambitious when they wrote their syllabus that included not just the stuff that was asked, but a little bit more. So we're saying if you need to, you can cut out the little bit more you added in that didn't have to be in there according to the policies from the state. They can take out some of that extra stuff that they were going to do. Some of them were very ambitious with the number of projects they put in their course. And as long as they keep their project percentage of their grade in line with what's in there for the state guidelines, they can do fewer projects if they needed to make up some time, because some of them are saying they have less than half of the synchronous time that they used to have, and they're really struggling with what to do. So that's some of the guidance our local panel has given our high schools.
I agree with Donna in that it seems to be business as usual. I know Melvin, Harris, and I have had some discussions, you know, in the event that transitional math courses are going to be changed with remote learning. And at Blackhawk, we have 18 schools in our district. 12 have already been approved for transitional math. And one of the questions I've been asking a lot is how can students demonstrate they've met the competencies? Can a grade of C still indicate students are meeting those competencies? And from what I understand, a grade of C or even a P in a transitional math course is acceptable to determine or demonstrate that a student has met the competencies. So, and it should be accepted for placement into those credit-bearing courses, consistent with the Illinois Community College. I think it's the Chief Student Services Officers on placement methods. So that's all consistent there.
Amy decided to make us read like an entire paragraph in the chat, so I'll read it for you. So at MVCC Moraine Valley, they decided not to give a final exam since the MVCC, weren't requiring final exams. You thought maybe it was too flexible. Amy, do you want to speak to this?
I guess it's just, when everything happened in the fall or in the spring and nothing was being proctored at the high school or for the most part at Moraine, and they pretty much canceled their finals. I just threw up my hands and said, that's fine. And at that point, I only had a couple of 2 districts doing it. I didn't realize it was going to spill over to fall now. And we should be having our LAP meeting by the end of this month, but at this point it's difficult because a lot of the high schools are still not proctoring any assessments, and it's, that's in our MOU. It says certain assessments had to be proctored or whatever, or taken individually. So I honestly, I know if I wanted to push it and say, no, we need to do this, whatever, the right way or according to MOU, I'd get a lot of pushback, and I just chose that not to be a battle that I fought at this point. So until things get a little bit closer to normal, I'm trusting them like I trust the people teaching the PMGE course at Moraine. So, I don't know. It might not be the right answer, but.
No, I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, we're being flexible in a lot of other places, and it's hard to decide this is the one time we're going to hold the line. So, Donna, what do you want to add to this?
Okay, I did want to add about the P grade. I did see on the ICCB website that colleges should be accepting a pass grade, a P grade for transitional math right now. But Samantha Leave told me in an email that the P grade is a local decision. So I'm not sure if she's mistaken or what, but it seems like our high schools aren't even using P grades. I know we are at the college right now, so I don't know if it's going to be an issue for my county, but I'm not really sure. So maybe that's something Mike can ask the panel when you meet at the end of the month.
What is Samantha's last name, and then Kira, and then Mike?
Her last name is Leave, L-E-A-V.
Thank you. Kira?
So Amy shared that you've not had your LAP meeting yet this semester. I don't know, this semester just like totally got away from me because I'm also transitional math coordinator for our district. That October 1st deadline came up and I was just like, nope, we're not going to get a meeting in before then. Mike, do you know, is in the spring, is it going to be March 1st again? And I guess I was just curious as to whether other LAPs met yet this semester. My timing to get things approved is like all off.
I guess I'll just talk. I had my hand raised, but since I'm being asked formally,
yeah,
oh, it's fine.
I think if you have a course that you need to send to the portability panel, the October 1st deadline was probably pretty firm with that. I just sent in this morning a course that did not need to go to the state. I just sent it in this morning because we don't need to actually, because that's one that doesn't need to be voted at the state level because we already have a QL course that's already been approved. And we're kind of hoping that most of your LAPs hopefully are getting to the point where you don't have to send courses to the state, to the portability panel for approval. You just need to tell the state that your LAP approved them and they just need to get the codes. I don't think that those are firm on the October 1st deadline. Okay. As far as March 1st, I don't know about March 1st. I guess I'm going to find that out when we have our meeting.
Okay. And
so I don't know yet about that one.
Because this would be a course that we already have one on the books. It would just be an additional school running that course. So that could be, I mean, I don't have to stick to that October 1st deadline.
I didn't. I sent one in this morning.
Okay.
So if your LAP approved a course that you already have from another school pre-approved from the state, I would just go for it and just send it in.
But it would need to be in before you guys meet, right, at the state level?
I don't think so, because as long as it goes through the process through ISBE and they get the documentation, they can just send the codes out to the school. Okay. Nothing needs to be looked at. Syllabi and competency spreadsheets, they don't need to be looked at because the local panel already approved it. I mean, I will ask that at the meeting, just to make sure, because to be honest with you, I don't think we as the liaisons ever got a clear process in sending in those classes that don't need to be approved by the portability panel. So maybe that's something I will put on the docket for when we meet. And because I haven't even, Dawn, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've not seen anything yet for that meeting, right? I haven't. So yeah, but the other thing I wanted to mention that was brought up by Donna is I'm about the accepting P grades. I wonder if there's confusion with IEI, because IEI has said that P grades at the community college are now going to be have to be accepted at the four-year universities under the IEI contract. Okay, so I don't know if there was confusion there between the community colleges and the 4 years and the high schools and the community colleges with transitional math. I'm not sure, but it would seem to me that a P grade coming from a transitional math course in high school, we at KCC would accept that going in to ours.
Sorry, Donna had a comment in the chat, and then so you may want to check that, but Amy has her hand raised, so I'm going to let Amy speak first.
I was just going to follow up with what Mike said, because you said about a course that didn't need state approval because you already had a QLS approved a year or two ago by the state panel. I had, and this probably does need clarification, because I thought I've never sent anything into anywhere except the two courses, one QLS model course, from one of our high schools, and one STEM course. And then I thought the only thing I was forwarding after that is like a check, almost like a list. It was just like on one piece of paper if you've added another high school, but I wasn't sending any documentation other than, yes, LA approved it, and now this district is running transitional math QLS or whatever. So it would be curious if I was supposed to be sending lots of things somewhere, because I sent nothing except one course of QLS and one course of STEM to the panel that was approved, and nothing else has gone. Now this year, another school is going to add it, so I was just going to fill out the little form that said, okay, now this one's running. So I hope that's right, but I was never sending anything.
It's just that ISBE needs to know that school has that course running. So that's the thing. So what I did is what I did last spring, and everyone said thank you, is I just sent that form you're actually talking about, where you put the school name and their RC code, whatever that is, and what course they're doing. I just sent it to Melvin. I said, here's this course done, and they said thank you, because they do need to know, so then they can get those codes on the transcripts.
Right, but that's all I was saying. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like researching in front of you here.
Well, and that was just very helpful for me. And I think maybe it was just misunderstanding on my part too. I was aware of that sheet that you fill out, like Amy was just talking about, but I thought that had the October 1st and March deadlines, the same as everything else. So knowing that isn't as firm helps. So thank you.
Well, this is good. Hopefully some good information here. Any other additional comments about transitional math or questions, since we have some people in the know here? Cool. I think I misjudged, because I think 10 was the next one, actually. Ooh. Nothing like a light topic to get us going here. We're warmed up. It's 4:49. We're warm. We can tackle this one. Anyone want to start the discussion about placement changes, transitional math, co-recs? What do we think DevEd is going to look like? Or what should it look like? If we have, how are things going right now? I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I think DevEd is going to be cut at least in half in the next few years. Because all these the schools are trying to push all these kids in transitional math. So that's going to kill a bunch. And fact, we look at transcripts now. A lot of kids did horrible on placement tests, but we've done transcripts for years. A lot of times they have their C in algebra too, no problem, for things. So they're using that now, GPA, everything else. I think the developmental math class, especially the lowest end, is going to be cut in half. Our lowest level one is almost non-existent. Almost everyone's going into the PMGE type classes now for things. So our 080, our lowest level, is almost gone, almost no one going in it. The next level up, the basic arithmetic one, is numbers are dwindling fast. But our PMGE one, the numbers are booming. So I feel it's going to get cut in half, and that bottom end is going to start to get really eliminated. I think Chris talked about, he had this last year or whatever, a whole bunch of those sections got canceled with all the online stuff. And I think it's just going to be, especially that lower end, is going to disappear or almost disappear for things. We're going to have special little classes for the few people that may need it, is what I kind of looking is going to happen in the next few years. At least that's what I believe.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's what Tony just described exactly what I've seen. And the one thing I am curious about, though, is, like, for instance, with the co-rec, at Sandberg, our co-rec course has had a variety of students, and a variety of numbers, and a variety of types of students, I'd say also. And so it, like some semesters, it seems like they've done fairly, they've done okay. And then I had one semester where, really, to be honest, some of them just didn't want to do any work, or didn't want to do the work to actually get through the course. So I'm curious where that where the co-requisites are gonna end up. I like the co-requisites, and I think that they are going to be helpful, but I'm curious how helpful they're going to be in the end, and how they'll impact that. If they'll send some students back, or if they'll keep pushing most of the students forward.
Tara.
So our PMGE course is actually struggling with enrollment, if you guys can believe that. And we're getting pushed now to that in the future, they're like, oh, well, you can make it a hybrid class now, because ours is 6 credit hours. I don't know if we're kind of I think we're on the high end of that, but apparently our advisors are telling us, we had a meeting with them yesterday, they're telling us that 6 is too much for the students who don't like math, who don't want to take math. I would argue that 1 is too much for someone who doesn't want to take math either, but that we need to now we have the opportunity to make this a hybrid course in the future. So I think this is gonna open the doors for more classes to be online at certain colleges, and more hybrid stuff.
Thanks, Jared. Donna?
I just wanted to say, just to mention some data we have at the College of Lake County from an initiative, a rather unique initiative that we've done. Back in fall of 2018, 49% of our math sections that we were offering at the college were developmental. And this semester in the fall, 21% of our math offering sections are developmental because of certain things that we've done. Now that's only with our beginning transitional math, whereas only 6 of our 21 high schools offering it. This academic year, all 21 of our high schools are offering transitional math. So I'm imagining if we're at 21% of our math offerings right now as developmental, what is it going to be once all of these kids are coming in, and for fall of 21, it's going to be even a tinier little piece of the pie. So that's what's happening with developmental math at the college. And I would love to share our unique model at some point, but maybe this isn't the conversation. But thank you.
That's CLC, right? Okay. Like people said where they were earlier, and now I've already forgotten some of them. So interesting. What do you think about? So let me ask this question. One question is like, what is the trend that's happening? The other question is, do you think this is working for students? Like, are these things, because IMAC has a voice in these things, like, do we have, what can we say to our administrators or to state policymakers? I don't know, I'm just curious about your points on, okay, this is what's happening all around us. Some of this we can't really control, but do we think, and you can pick a single initiatives if you want, you can jump around. So I saw 3 hands go up simultaneously, but I think it was Chris, Amy, and then Mike.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to kind of, I guess, answer a question with a question. Has anybody seen kind of what success rates and what students do in the gen ed courses? Because I'm assuming that these students who would have otherwise taken a developmental ed course, these aren't students taking calculus. These are students taking gen ed math and gen ed stat. So I'm kind of curious if anybody has any, and Amy might even be able to speak to that for our place more, but how do people do typically in the gen ed courses?
Yeah, I'll look for my data while maybe Amy answers that question.
Yeah, and we're both asking this, Chris and I, because I've struggled a lot with our institutional research to pull out students and divide them up by how they satisfied the prerequisite for, let's say, gen ed math. So some of them are in there because they took PMGE, some of them are in there because they took our intermediate algebra. Now some are in there because they took transitional math. Now some are in there based on their high school GPA. And our system was in no way set up for us to possibly figure this out. Now, again, because we started transitional math, and I don't know if it was true, but I kept telling the administration, I'm like, the state's requiring us that we're going to have to follow these students and make sure we know how they're succeeding in the gen ed stats or gen ed math course. And so, they were trying to clean up we use Colleague, a way to sort of be able to pull them out. I have no idea. This would be the first semester for transitional math, which is when all this started kicking in. So fall 20 right now would be the first semester after which I could go and say, okay, all that we worked on, did that happen? And will we be able to get that data? But is it working is an impossible question for Moraine Valley to answer right now, because, and I don't know if it's our version of Colleague, but that's never been easily done to sort of figure out who's in the class and how they wound up there.
So I have some data. I'm going to cut Mike off here because it was a data question. So I'm just preemptively getting involved because I have something to offer. So I have ECC. I don't have it compiled for all of our classes, but here we were kind of looking at before and after we changed our placement test. So we had these, like, this is statistics, and here's our PMGE, intermediate algebra, combined, all these different things. So when I'm looking at some of the high school GPA only, the sample size was pretty small for those. Alex only, like, none of those were concerning at all. SAT, we lowered our placement score to meet the state. The worst ones were our courses in the fall. College algebra is down here, some bigger numbers, pretty similar. High school GPA only, it's good. Alex, good. SAT, ACT. This is the combo one. It's kind of a sample size issue. And here's intermediate algebra. So these sample sizes are small. This was fall 2019, but I guess spring 2020 data is worthless. So we can't, this is probably the last good data that we have anyway, because we implemented all those high school GPA only was fall 2019 was the first semester we did that. So.
I'm sorry, Dan, was that into gen ed math?
Gen ed math is 104. Pretty similar, high school GPA only. Alex, not so good there. Some of these sample sizes are really small, so SAT is fine. Our prereq courses, so this is interesting. Again, 10. But PMGE, going into our Math 104, which was a lab-based project class for us, the Gen Ed, we do it project-based, so they did actually pretty well considering. So, but those sample sizes are too small. That was just a single semester, so yeah. Mike,
Small sample size is better than no sample size.
Yeah, yeah. So from our perspective, we thought things were working okay. We don't have the co-rec in here. We did have a couple of those. So, Mike, go ahead.
To go back to your original question about these initiatives that are going on, what we need to tell our administrations is that there is no one size fits all. Is that there are that co-requisites can work for certain things. Pathways like PMGE and things like that can work for other things. Okay, multiple methods of placement can work in other ways. What we don't want to see is what's happening in some other states where they do away with all placement testing, or in states where they do all co-requisite models. And as you probably are all aware of, there was a Senate bill on the floor 2 years ago that wanted us to do away with placement testing and do all co-rec models. That has been put down for now. So what we need to convince them is that yes, these initiatives work, but we need a combination of these and other initiatives that are going on to help our students get into college level courses quicker and to be successful in them as well. That's my soapbox.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments to make at this particular point?
And also, I'll say again, ICCB has told us, and I'm usually getting these from at IEI meetings, they have told us straight out that they are not pushing for doing all co-recs, even though we hear that. And we have administrators and CAOs. And by the way, KCC just got a new CAO from Moraine Valley, by the way. But anyway, that's on a tangent. They tell us that even though you may have heard from your administrators that we are going all co-requisites and we're getting rid of all placement, that is not what we are hearing from ICCB. Okay, so now that might mean 5 years from now, that could all be different, but that at least as of now, that's what we are hearing, is that it's not all going to be co-rec. Again, it's like what I just said, there are lots of different initiatives. Not what I want.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else with any comments here? All right, I'm trying to this is a bad idea to take minutes while I'm also trying to organize the meeting. This was a really poor planning.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
None of us could do it any better.
Thank you. All right. The worst is when you're going and then you get private chats to you and you're like, wait, no, what? No. Okay. I think we're doing really well. That one wasn't bolded because I actually misread my own poll. So I think we are to the italicized ones next. So we have a hands-on class like Math for Teachers. Who has some suggestions? Tara brought this one up earlier, and then this was what your submission was in the form. Are you mainly looking for help? What are you doing? Or do you have opinions you want to share, or what, Tara?
Yeah, any kind of virtual stuff that anybody happens to be using that can help, because my students are struggling so much. I mean, they struggle with this class anyway, but I'm just kind of at a loss for innovative, is the word, things to do.
I feel like we underutilize our email list and stuff, because we did that, we asked people for some resources. Why can't we a list service thing, not it's on a listserv, everybody's going to be replied to all, but why can't we periodically hey, this came up, do you have any good Math for LED resources that you use, and then compile them and email it out or post it on the site? It just seems like a really simple thing, and most people are nope, delete. I don't teach that. And then those that do, like, oh yeah, I could add to this. I don't know. But how about for those who are here? Do you have any suggestions on this?
Cricket, cricket,
Yeah.
cricket.
I wish I,
Just me.
I
All
will
right.
say, I will say, I really wish I had some suggestions because, well, on most of my classes, I can go, I teach all my classes online. Most of them work out okay. I teach a co-rec online, and that one I used to use activities and group type situations, and that's kind of gone by the wayside, and I don't like that.
Mhm.
One thing I was thinking though, at some of our conferences, I remember that we've had, you can, like with some of these video programs, you can make like separate groups and have them meet on something. You may not be able to do like something that involves props or something for or manipulatives for a class, but you could maybe have something that fosters a discussion among the students or something where they have to work to solve a problem together. That would be,
Mhm.
that's just a
Yeah.
thought for me.
I do
Well,
love
I threw out the idea. So I've got, I found a website that had virtual base 10 blocks that were really good to use. They broke apart and regrouped together pretty easily there. And so since all of our students have a Gmail address, I thought, okay, they can use like Google Meet and open up those virtual manipulatives, and I could give them a something that they have to explain. You know, I call them like from the classroom examples where it's like, okay, a kid said this for 42 divided by 7. Here's what the kid said. Show me using manipulatives what this child was doing. Oh, Lord, no. No,
Yeah.
the technology is getting in my way. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I mean this. I could teach my 76-year-old mother the technology faster than I can my students. I mean,
can see that.
Oh my God, it's so frustrating. So yeah, that's why I'm just kind of like, somebody please give me some other ideas, because I feel like I'm just too over the top for them with what little I'm asking of them. So, okay. Well, thanks for the email address though. The email list idea. I mean, maybe, I was
we
hoping
may
some other.
follow up with that. I think Amy and then Mike.
Well, the only thing I was just going to mention, and to sort of help Tara more immediately, perhaps, I don't, from IMAC talks, since I don't teach the math for teachers, I don't go to those talks. I don't know if anybody would remember who does. I think Connie McLean maybe does talks. So, and just to tag off on the email list, maybe it would be, I don't know, I'm not volunteering to do this, just to be clear, but so it doesn't go to every single member right away. Send out one email and say, let me know if you want to be on an email list for math for teachers or for the calculus sequence, so that we don't have to keep ignoring ones we can't help with or whatever. And
that would be interesting to do like Amatic does, where you like check all the boxes that apply for like topics that you're interested in.
And I don't want to make it complicated, and that's why I think the idea of email, people are always checking their email, and that's the only thing I would ever check. I'm not going to go to a website to see who's posted recently. But maybe instead of starting one big huge email chain,
well, I wasn't thinking of a chain.
Yeah.
Well, what I was thinking of is email people if you have ideas, and then we collect them like we did already, because we already have practice with that.
Yeah.
Oh, and
okay.
Just a Google sheet that you email.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking more of the ones when I always blast out something to representatives from each school asking one question.
To consider, though. Yeah, that is interesting to consider. Are you willing to be on a list, for this or whatever? But
I can't think of anybody else, Tara. I mean, Connie, I feel like is one that did math for teachers. I don't remember off the top of my head who else has given talks that you might just want to email right away.
So you can put that on the agenda next meeting, Mike.
Okay, I'll do that.
Good thing I'm not webmaster anymore.
And Tara, I will get a hold of our instructor, who's fantastic, and what she's doing for online for her Math for LED too. And maybe she's got some great ideas. And so sometimes, Dan, it's not just emailing people, but just talking, trying to get, you develop those connections with reaching out with people, to talk to others too. I don't have any solutions, Tara, for you for you short term. But if there's money available, could you get like lab kits like the science classes use? And so you could have manipulatives available for the students at the beginning of the semester. It's just an idea that they would have.
I like that.
Because as much as we complain about our classes right now, I can't complain too loud. So my wife, who's a K-12 teacher, would hear me, because they're just and then the science teachers with their labs. Every day I'm glad I'm a math teacher that I don't have to deal with labs. So.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that.
Yep. Oh, what does he say?
Yeah, sounds good. All right, let's see. What are we doing here? 5:11. How are we doing? Are you crashing or like
a little bit?
Like, if you said right now, if everyone was like, "Yeah, this has been good. I'm kind of done," I'd be like, "Great, go. Have a good night." Like, it's fine.
Do a poll.
I move to adjourn.
Okay.
This really has been helpful, though. Like, I appreciate everybody's thoughts, and even though like we didn't solve the world's problems,
and I think some of these other topics we'll talk about next week. So
like the next
Thursday.
one was the one about the classroom, like what modalities are you teaching in at your institution?
Yes, and I think we're going to hit.
Sorry, I saw Amy's hand go back up there.
Yeah, and I really don't mean to prolong the meeting, but
it's fine.
Just out of curiosity, Moraine for spring is doing a limited amount of what we would call a hybrid. Not that I understand completely what hybrid's going to mean, but I think it's supposed to be deliver the lecture or something online, and then when we meet with half our class, we can only meet 12 at a time. I might have them work on problem sets, something like that, at a socially, so that's where Moraine went for spring. We've made no decisions about summer. I'm just curious if anybody is doing something much different in the spring or knows anything about summer.
Oh, yeah, for summer, we at Elgin are doing the same, totally online for math.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
KCC has made no decision yet about summer. Spring is just like fall. So.
Interesting.
Chris?
Yeah. Amy, Michael just had us do our summer schedule. We just did our face-to-face classes similar to the hybrid model that we've got set up for spring. So similar to what a lot of our kids' school districts might be doing, where you've got the A group and the B group. Half the kids are going to go one day. Half the students are going to go one day during the class, and then the other half are going to go on the other day. So I guess the instructor is going to meet the class twice, but see each group once a week.
Yeah, we just had concerns because it was so much time in the summer compared to a 16-week
semester. In the summer, what I did just to get, just to check that off my list, I made, like, all of our classes were normally 3 days a week, like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday for the summer. I just made them 4 days a week, where you're going to have the A group is going to be Monday, Wednesday, and the B group is going to be Tuesday, Thursday. So it'll kind of suck for the instructor to have to go 4 days a week. But for developmental classes, we were kind of erring on the side of more face-to-face contact per week, so we can either teach them or spread COVID, whichever the case might be.
Right. All right, we have another hand. I already forgot the M. Paris.
Tony. It's actually Michael, but middle name's Tony, so go with that. Ours has been kind of what the instructor wants. The problem is with the rooms, they spread them out. So like my classroom, I can have, I think, 8 to 10 people, maybe tops in it. So my Calc 2's on campus, no problem this semester, like normal. Then I come home and do my office hours online. Spring, summer are basically the same as fall. If the instructor can or can work with doing something online, hybrid, whatever they want, they prefer totally online. Summer schedule has to be figured out in the next week or so anyway, roughly. So it's just same rules, same thing. Some things like if I'm going to have 20-some people in a class, I can't have a classroom. There's no classroom big enough spacing to do it. So I'm just going to go online with those classes just because of that fact. So we're going basically fall, spring, summers. We're expecting at least through next summer, same situation. There's going to be no difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people are probably not going to make a lot of changes. Wherever your institution is, you're probably, because not much is going to change for spring. So, all right. I posted the link if you want to share that. I think I'll probably we didn't put a recording up for the last one. I had it. I have a recording, so I don't know if we'll put one up, but maybe
we'll do all three of them at the same time.
At the same time, should we put the notes from today in there too, or is that more just for us?
I think no. I don't think that. Why? I think we should share that.
Yeah, I think that'd be valuable. So
maybe
when
we
I
could
email the link to Chris, I'll put that link from the Google Doc as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So I hope to look forward to seeing people next Thursday at 3. We're going to talk about the class, what you guys are actually doing, and what's successful and what's not successful in the classroom. That will be fun. And I'll let Dan off the hook, and I'll actually host it. Maybe Dan can take notes.
I don't know.
All right.
Thanks so much. Hope this was helpful.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
Have a
Dan.
good evening, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.